Right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first episode of Policy Debates, a show of South African Libertarian. My name is Martin van Staden. I am a law student at the University of Pretoria and currently a local coordinator with African Students for Liberty. I am joined by my colleagues and friends, Christiaan van Huyssteen and Nicholas Woode-Smith. Christiaan is a student at the University of Stellenbosch and the founder of diagonalviews.com, and Nicholas is a student at the University of Cape Town, a politics and philosophy student, and one of the original founders of the South African libertarian movement that is capitalized, not the entire movement. So today we'll be discussing several topics that are currently taking place in South Africa. And yeah, I think we'll start on that note. So what I found interesting that happened during this week was another instance of a Far Eastern nation arresting South African citizens. Now this time it was the People's Republic of China, which arrested several South Africans for some really bizarre reasons. These people were part of a gift of the givers tourist or something tour through China, and they say they were watching videos of the history of China, especially of what great Genghis Khan, and along with some British and I don't know some other countries' citizens as well. The Chinese government arrested them on terrorism-related charges and for watching propaganda videos or something in their hotels. Now, this is in the last few years, probably the fourth time that South Africans have been arrested in East Asia, and I think the previous times it has been on drug-related charges. Now, my opinion on this is actually pretty interesting when it comes to libertarianism. Many will describe me as a neoconservative in this case, but I would say that our government doesn't do enough to ensure our citizens are protected abroad. Given that what monarchists believe the proper role of government should be, it's to protect the life and liberty of their citizens. Now we don't lose our citizenship the moment we leave the country, and I think this is an oppressive act by a foreign government towards South Africans, and I would say that we should do something like more to pressure the Chinese government in giving us back our citizens, and we should continue to follow this kind of stance when it comes to our citizens, especially if they're arrested on vague or really unfounded charges or on drug-related things that we really have our own law to take care of them with. So, Christiaan, what do you think about this whole tragedy?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I think the Chinese government has a history of being paranoid over things like this, and I don't think we'll soon get a response from their side where they'll state the real reason for the arrests. But the main thing I think that we can move on to is going to ask is how is South Africa going to deal with this? Because this is a very good, standard test of our diplomacy. And if our foreign ministry and our vice president, who I believe is currently in China, it's a perfect opportunity for them to show what they're made of. Maybe issue a statement saying they condemn China, they condemn the moves, and they're doing everything to get our citizens back. But I haven't heard anything like that. So it's unclear what they're going to do. But I think the charges, terrorism and stuff, that's kind of ridiculous. So we've gotten 5 of the 10 or 11 back, and hopefully we'll get the rest back soon. And I don't think it's the best conditions to be in a Chinese cell in close to in Mongolia or somewhere while your family is at home and worrying. So yeah, I'm hoping for a speedy resolution to this whole matter. Nicholas?
Now, it comes as no surprise that China is continuing to act as a kind of a psychotic state. This comes as no surprise. It's still communist, technically. But I agree with you, Martin. As much as it might sound neocon, it is the responsibility of a government to protect its people, one of its only responsibilities. But I'm not optimistic at all that our government will be able to solve this problem, because I genuinely don't think that they care. Ramaphosa will be there, and he'll do it as much as it's convenient for him to try to free as many people as possible. But he doesn't really care. He will try to. What's more important to him is his business relations in China, and to maximize the amount of money he can probably get out of all of his other dealings. Because if there's one thing that characterizes our national government and our ruling party, is its corruption and hedonism. I'm not really optimistic about this. Hopefully the Chinese government will just get bored and maybe just release these people with a little bit of mercy.
Yeah, certainly, I agree. And another like the thing that makes me like very pessimistic about this whole situation and about like going forward with our country and foreign relations and stuff is a recent, I don't know, was it last year? You guys remember Pierre Korki was like kidnapped by Al Qaeda in Yemen. Like
Yeah.
our government did absolutely nothing. They literally just like negotiated with Al Qaeda until Korki was killed. And I mean, really, if the South African Defense Force wasn't capable of going into Yemen, like a country with basically no government, and getting back our citizens, I mean, there is no reason to believe that really there will be enough political will to even come close to pressuring the Chinese government into conceding anything to us. So yeah, I guess in the end, this will come down to how generous China is feeling about their relations with us, especially, which I really hope like we get these citizens back.
Yeah, I think this reinforces the myth, if you can even call it a myth, that the Chinese government, exerts a fair amount of pressure and influence in South African politics. If we can't stand up to this, which is a blatant, well, seemingly blatant abuse of our citizens' rights, what's the purpose of having an embassy in China? What's the purpose of having a foreign ministry if they're not going to come out and do something?
What's the
So
purpose
I
of
don't
having
know.
a defense force?
What's
Yeah.
the point?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So I guess we pretty much discussed that well or whatever. So next we're moving on to your topic, Christian. It's about the flight of the rich from South Africa. So could you give us a short introduction on that?
Yes, basically, of course, we'll provide the sources for all of these in the description below.
Yes.
It's a case of South African citizens, over $8,000 millionaires, South African dollar millionaires, have left the country over the past 15 years. And, they take their money with them. And imagine if this country had 8,000 more dollar millionaires living here. Imagine the thousands and thousands of jobs that South Africa has lost. So we have to ask, why are they leaving? And the thing is, they're not leaving because there are better opportunities or better investments overseas. They're leaving because they're uncertain about South Africa's political and economic environment. The article mentioned places like Portugal and Malta and the UK. People moving their money there, and I've been to Malta, and there's absolutely nothing going on there. Sure, it's very clean, there's no crime, but it's a very boring place. So, people don't buy property there or invest there just because it's a great opportunity. They do so to kind of maneuver themselves and their assets out of South Africa. I've heard horror stories about people who've moved to Australia, immigrated there. So I think the core of this issue is, why are people leaving? Why are the rich leaving? I don't think our country, our government, and some of our lower classes of our citizens respect and understand the necessity of having rich people, if you can put it as bluntly as that, in the country. And if we appreciate them and make life more comfortable and rewarding for them, everyone will be better off. So yeah, I don't know. Your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, so Stefan Molyneux, I think most libertarians will know who that is. He's a Canadian libertarian philosopher who really talks about these kinds of things. And in a recent one of his recent videos, he talked about Greece, especially. Now this relates to this topic, where he said that a big part of Greece's current economic problems is that, I don't know, in the past 100 years or something, the Greeks, the intelligent class, or to put it like that, or the productive Greeks have left, like Greece, and Greece is now left to essentially a fully socialist voter base. Now, Molyneux says that the cause of the Greek economic crisis is the anti-wealth culture of the Greek people, and I can see that parallel in South Africa actually, which is actually very worrying. Our civil society, our intellectuals, our commentators, they would always talk about how poor South Africa is, but in the very same breath, they would condemn the wealthy people. There's I don't want to say it's an anti-capitalist culture, because capitalism is by default hated anyway everywhere, but there is an anti-wealth culture. When someone does well in South Africa, he's seen as a bad guy. He's seen as exploitative. He's seen as like having earned something he doesn't deserve. And people say this without even further investigating. A recent example was when I think it was in Cape Town, like flats or expensive apartments were being built on the waterfront somewhere, and by foreign rich investors. And when you looked at what South Africans were saying about it, it was shocking. I mean, they said it is terrible. They condemn these rich people without knowing who they are, by saying like, they shouldn't come here. South Africa is poor. They're just gonna exploit the people. And I personally think that if such a anti-wealth culture, like a culture that is part of our people, like exists, then South Africa will never go anywhere. I mean, it doesn't matter how much potential or how much natural resources we have, or how much smart people we actually have. If we have an anti-wealth culture, we will just fail. That's my opinion on it, basically. Nicholas.
Yeah, as you just said, this is just another blatant example of how they'd rather have equality in poverty than just unequal wealth, which is, in my opinion, a lot better. And of course, just as I agree with you again, this is all to do with the socialist electorate and government regulations, which are shoving these people out because rich people know that they probably don't have a future here. But the thing is, they're rich enough to leave, which is, yes, it's good. That might sound iffy for them. They don't want to leave. But the thing is, they can afford to. When it's us, the middle class, or even the poor who don't even realize it, who are the ones who suffer. So the thing is that we're not being pro-rich by wanting them to stay. We're being pro-us. And this is one of the biggest, one of the silliest things about a lot of these leftist youth wanting these rich people to leave is that they're hurting themselves. And they're hurting the poorest of the poor. I also made just an observation on the Heritage Index of Economic Freedom. Just of a glance of this article, which will be in the description below, just from a glance, the top five of those nations are on the top five freest economies in the world. And this shows you that free nations attract capital, and capital attracts economic growth, and economic growth has been proven to raise living standards across the board.
That's if I can have just back up, Martin, you said that it's anti-wealth. I think you should go further. It's anti-success. People are jealous. People don't like seeing other people succeed. And especially, when they're rich, or forgive me for saying this, if they're white, people don't like seeing that. They think they're being exploited, which is not true. I mean, if in a free trade environment, if you do something, if you engage in exchange voluntarily, you're not being exploited. Unless you're being forced to do something, you're not being exploited. And also, you mentioned Greece. the rich people left Greece and so on. I can back that up with my own experiences. I grew up in a community where we had quite a lot of Greek people in Pretoria, and lots of them were very entrepreneurial. They worked hard, they were successful, they had restaurants and various other kinds of businesses. So the people who immigrate from Greece to here, or from here to the UK or wherever, they are genuinely people who are driven and want to be successful and want to be wealthy and then protect their wealth. So, fair enough for them. It's a major loss for South Africa, where we have people who have this mentality and this attitude from governments and from, the people on the ground who despise success. Without success, this country will never move forward. So yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, certainly. I like the point that you made about it's anti-success. I think that confirms that socialism, or even simply like any kind of economic collectivism, it's an ideology of envy. Like, if I can say it like that, it's all that it comes down to. Leon Lowe of the Free Market Foundation actually talks about this in a video that I'll actually also put in the description below, where he explains that socialism, it's not about the poor. Socialism is about the rich. It's obsessing about how rich individuals are succeeding in life, and that is what socialism is all about. They don't give a crap about what's happening to the poor. That's just an afterthought. But it's mainly about the rich and the envy that the socialists themselves have toward the rich.
Yeah, it's a form of tribalism, collectivism, But yeah, anyway.
Nicholas, anything else to add on that?
Yeah, I had an anecdote, but I think that we've basically exhausted the topic at this point.
Okay, then our last topic is yours. It's on the new liquor
proposals.
Liquor regulation. Yeah, the regulations that are being proposed by the Western Cape government and national government, I think. So can you give us a little introduction on that?
Yeah. National governments and provincial regulators, as you said, including the Western Province alcohol regulator, much to my disappointment, are supporting an initiative to increase alcohol regulations. This, to summarize, is raising the drinking age to 21, preventing liquor sales within 500 meters of a school, place of worship, recreational facility, rehab, public institution, or residential area, and closing down of said business within 2 years if they do not comply, if they don't stop selling alcohol. Restrictions on liquor advertising, and here's another big silly one: making distributors and manufacturers liable for any damages incurred as a result of alcohol. Now, my quick thing here, in regards to the drinking age, as we've seen in America and in many other nations, which can actually has slightly more institutions which are able to enforce these things, it's unenforceable. And the fact of the matter is that we have people from the age of 14, even younger, who are already drinking. All this is doing is making more criminals. Because if they really think that people are going to stop drinking, especially people who have been drinking for a few years now legally, they're really living in a fairy tale. The second one, which is one I've really been focusing on, is it basically eliminates commercial alcohol sales. And as much as some people might not like alcohol, we know what prohibition does. And it doesn't work. And if you haven't heard about this, just go to a decade America called the 1920s. And so if this does go through, and let's presume that, let's say they manage to enforce it, we would have to go all the way to the Karoo in order to get our alcohol. Which, of course, is going to raise crime, damage our economy, the big shebang. Martin?
Christiaan, you go before me.
Cool.
My
I think prohibition has never worked. It never will. This idea that that the government should just control our lives, it's ridiculous. Why don't governments, if they want to, why don't they ban McDonald's? Why don't they ban KFC? Those things are doing way more damage to to the health of our average citizen than alcohol can do. Why don't they just make drugs illegal? Maybe that will solve the drug problem. Oh, wait. I think, quite frankly, the gangsters are licking their lips at this because it gives them another thing to trade illegally. I mean, the thing about bad guys is they don't adhere to and listen to the rules and the laws, so they'll do whatever they want anyway. And I think this will cause lots of death and despair and destruction in places like the Cape Flats. So yeah, and this thing, 500 meters from a school or a church or a rehabilitation. What the hell is that? I think they should have breathalyzers in Parliament. They can't even keep alcohol out of Parliament. Half those MPs seem to be intoxicated most of the time. So this is just ridiculous, and I think it's just another thing to distract us from all the big things that are happening. The bigger issues, because it's so ridiculous. I can't see this even going through. But who knows? We live in South Africa. Anyway, you, Martin?
Yeah, no, I think like Nicholas says, prohibition it can't work. And what is inevitably going to follow from this, and this is something that South Africans are very good at, is violent crime. They can call this, if they make it into an act like of Parliament, they can call it like the establishment of a liquor underground act, and then that could really just they may just as well give the criminals like statutory authority now, because this is so inevitable. We are creating a new underground that's gonna supply that I guess already actually exists, that supplies to people under 18, but now it's just gonna be like those 3 extra years, and like on a philosophical level, this comes down to 2 things. Like, in the first place, it's completely unpractical. There is no way that the South African government is ever going to be able to enforce this. What bothers me is that the Western Cape government will actually maybe be able to enforce this, and that bothers me, because the DA has been doing pretty well when it comes to administration and enforcement of whatever laws they pass. Sorry. So and then the second thing is that this comes down to that underlying assumption that the government can just regulate anything. Where did this idea come from that the government can even get involved in this? I mean, I think it's another like indication of our constitutional failure. That's something I write a lot about on the blog. Our constitution doesn't put effective limits on the government, so it's with this, for example, there is no assumed liberty on the part of the people. It's just assumed that the government can come in and regulate this if they want. I don't even think they have a mandate for this. I don't think when the ANC supporters went to the ballot boxes last year and ticked ANC, I don't think this is what they had in mind. Yes, we want the government to stop us from drinking before 21. I mean, no. Everyone in this country drinks before 18, not even to say before 21. So where does the government get this mandate? I have no idea where they pull this from. So yeah, it's some kind of insanity that's happening in our state. I think it's just another power trip for some politicians and bureaucrats. They just want to control more, and that is what the nature of the state comes down to. The state attracts those who are power hungry.
Yeah. The scary thing about this, what you're saying about the act, is this doesn't have to be passed as an act. It's already in law. Regulators in provinces just have to sign the bill, that's what I found particularly scary about it. And that's why, particularly in the Western Province, the regulator sounds like he's really, really likes this idea. And what you said is, I can't see who would have the mandate for this, because as Christiaan mentioned earlier, there's even alcohol in Parliament, and I really don't think it's our parliamentarians who want this law. I think it's probably some conservative, not the good fiscally conservative, the socially conservative, who are really, really don't like alcohol and want to legislate morality, and they've managed to get some bureaucrats into government and now they want to go on a little bit of a power trip. Maybe they've got good intentions, but they also not really good at recent history or
Yeah.
economics.
Yeah, I wish these busybodies can just realize that governments can't make people take care of themselves. The reason I didn't start, drinking, I'm not like an alcoholic, but I didn't start drinking before I was 17, 18, 19, just because I knew what alcohol does to a youth's body. A young person's brain is severely affected by alcohol. And, my parents and my teachers taught me that. I didn't care about the law, because who's going to enforce the law? If my parents gives me a glass of wine at home when I was 16 or 17, are the police going to come bash down my door and prevent me from drinking? How are they going to enforce this? It's just going to create a new underworld, and it's going to make legitimate alcohol producers and liquor stores suffer. That's all it's going to do. But let's see.
Yeah, certainly. So, anyone else have something to say about that? No. Okay.
think we
Are
can
we,
call that wrap.
are we
Yeah,
done?
I think that about wraps up this. Unfortunately, our fourth panelist, so to say, Pumlani Majosi from the Free Market Foundation and from the Independent Entrepreneurship Group, couldn't join us today. He will be joining us in our subsequent episodes, hopefully. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. All the
Can I
links on. Oh yeah, sure, Christiaan,
Can
go
I
ahead.
just give as a closing remark, if you have any if anyone has any suggestions in the comments and so on, what we should do or change, just please leave them there. And please bear in mind, this is our first ever episode for any of us, I think. So just forgive any unprofessionalism or bad quality or anything, and tell us where we can improve.
And feel free to send us money so we can buy better quality mics.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. We are new at this. We're hoping to become like a kind of a voice for the libertarian minority in South Africa. So if you are one of those people who feel that none of the parties in parliament, no one in civil society really represents you, please get involved with South African Libertarian. We're always happy to take on more contributors and suggestions in general, like Nicholas and Christiaan just said. We'll be providing all the relevant links that we discussed now and to our website and our Facebook page in the comments below. Please remember to subscribe to this channel and to go like our Facebook page, especially the Facebook page. And yeah, thank you for tuning in. That wraps this first episode of Policy Debates up. Have a nice day.